Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 785. My opponent started off with e4 and I went e5, inviting various traditional kinds of openings like the, I don't know, the Ruy Lopez, the Italian game, even the King's Gambit. My opponent went with d4, which is the center game, as it's called, although we transpose into the Scotch Gambit, so we'll take a look at how that happened. I took, which is the main response here. I mean, you really don't want to just passively defend that pawn with the knight and have it kicked around, or with the d6. Yeah, I mean, it's not that that loses, it's just that it's better to take, and you have a bit of a freer game. And then the center game proper continues with queen takes d4, knight c6, and then the queen usually drops back to e3. Kind of a funny square, but well, I guess it's defending that pawn. It's out of the way of the kingside bishop. It'll maybe have to move again so the queenside bishop can develop. But anyway, that's a line and it can be played, although it seems like white has no big advantage there. The other thing you can try after pawn takes is c3, the third choice here in the database, but well, it's seen more often in practice. This is the Danish Gambit, which in fact is a pretty dangerous gambit. I usually refuse it, decline it with the move d5. But if you take, there's two ways to continue. Knight takes c3 is Alechen's recommendation. Alexander Alechen, the world champion from the 1930s. Yeah, it's a pretty dangerous attack. Bishop c4 is also the Danish Gambit, and maybe the main way to play it. And you can keep taking, or you can try and develop and then let black take the pawn, let white take the pawn. But in both cases, there's some interesting tactical lines for white there. So, you know, I usually avoid it when I'm faced with this as black and just play that d5 move. But anyway, he didn't go for either of those. What he played after, yeah, let's go back to the beginning in case you got lost in the variations. e4, e5. He went d4, the center game. I took, which is the main response. And then he went knight f3 instead of playing either queen takes or pawn to c3, which turns it into a real gambit. So knight here, and now we're just back in the Scotch game after I play knight c6, which seems like a pretty logical response. And well, the reason yeah, it has such a large number here is because we have in fact transposed into the Scotch at that point. Yeah, there are other moves here, d6 and knight f6. Knight f6 seems to be asking for trouble, but maybe you can sort of play it like an Alechen's defense and let the knight be chased around a little bit. So knight c6, and he can just take the pawn here, and that would be the Scotch game. But he played the Scotch Gambit with bishop to c4, and actually I like to play this myself. It's a decent gambit. So the two main responses here are knight to f6 and bishop to c5. Bishop to c5, just trying to hold on to the pawn. Both of them are playable, but they are complicated, and white gets a lot of compensation. So I avoid those and just play simply with the d6. Not the top choice here, but it gives you a playable game, and you avoid all those tricky lines. So, you know, white could continue with c3 and gambit style, but really the best move here is really just to take the pawn at this point and play a normal game. The gambit doesn't really get much play at this point. So now I can play knight f6. That was the whole point of this d6 move. He goes knight c3. You can see we actually stay in the opening book for quite a while, but finally with bishop to d7. Oh, actually bishop to d7 we are only momentarily out of the book because we transpose back in immediately. Well, you know, it's a very narrow, a small section of the opening book here, only a few games. And he played f4, which has no games in the database, but it's listed in the opening book here. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting way to play. I think his mistake was really later when he pushed on with f5. Yeah, so now we really are out of the book. And if he had just continued here with knight back to f3, just hold on to this big center here and try and take advantage of white's space. White has more space than black. Black's position is a little bit cramped. And I think there's a decent advantage to white in this position. The evaluation from the chess engine point of view actually switches from being, after he played, let's back up, he played f5. And after that, the evaluation switches from being in white's favor to being in black's favor. So just one move and it really changes the picture. I mean, it gives up this nice square. It's pretty obvious that I'm going to put a knight there, and it comes with tempo because I'm going to hit the bishop. So that's just a mistake. Not a game-losing mistake. It's just switches the advantage. So now white has to fight for the edge in order to stay in the game. Let's see. He went bishop back to e2, keeping the bishop. Went c5, kicking the knight. You know, you can argue with this decision. It was one of the top chess engine moves, but there are certainly other ways to play this, and it does create a weakness here. You know, I just think overall this weakness is not too hard to defend, and I wanted to get my bishop on the c6 square, so I wanted to chase that knight away so I could get some good squares for my pieces. So I think it was worth the price, basically. He dropped his knight back here. I played bishop c6, and he just decided to trade knights. And this is still okay. This is not really a big mistake, keeping some small edge to black. It's this next move, bishop d3. This is really the blunder where I finally get a significant advantage, where I basically just win a pawn after bishop d3. He could have defended another way. He could have defended with bishop to f3. Now his knight and his bishop and his knight, I drew it in the opposite order that I said it. They're both protecting the pawn, so it's adequately defended, and this queen check here can be met by just trading queens. So he doesn't have to lose the pawn. But after the game move, he played bishop to d3, and now this check, which I spotted right away, really does win a pawn. Although I made a blunder here, so if you want to, this could be kind of a puzzle for you. He played knight to, or he played king to h1, which is fine, and then I took with the knight. I played knight takes e4. And that was a mistake. So if you want to see if you can figure it out, this can be your tactical quiz here. Why is it a mistake for me to take right away? Okay, so if you want time to think about this, you can pause the video. I'm going to go ahead and explain things now. I took, and he took back with the knight. He should have taken with the bishop. And it introduces this idea of just trading queens. And in fact, it's difficult to meet this problem, this threat. I'm a piece down, remember. I just took a pawn with my knight, and he took the piece back. The queen can't take the bishop because it's still defended with the knight. The queen is under fire. I can trade queens. Certainly that's a move. But after this, his bishop is defended, and I just stay a piece down. So, so in fact, the way I played it actually should lose a piece. So after, let's say, after bishop takes e4, best play is to take with the bishop, allow white to trade queens, and then throw in this desperado move with the bishop. So I get 2 pawns for the piece, basically, instead of 1 pawn. And yeah, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so I have 2 pawns for the piece. But anyway, the game is switched from being better for black to being better for white. So that knight takes e4 was a blunder. The thing is, I'm still winning a pawn here. I just have to be precise. The way to play this is to play the move c4. Kick the bishop back. Now there's only 1 piece defending the pawn. And then I can take either way, probably with the knight. Makes most sense. And you know, if he wants to trade queens, he can. Probably he will avoid trading queens to try and keep material on and keep it complicated as possible, which is what you want to do when you're down material. But anyway, yeah, I'm just up a pawn here, and it's a good position for black. So I was winning after I played this queen d4 check move. But knight takes e4 gave him a chance to turn it around completely, and he just played too quickly here. So the lesson here is to investigate all possible orders of recapture. You know, there's time here. We're pretty early in the game to think about, instead of the natural knight recapture, you know, taking with the piece sets of lesser value in a particular position. That's your normal response. Just take with the bishop, opening up this line from the queen to the queen, and that wins material. So anyway, he took with the knight. Now I take with the bishop, and now if he takes, I can take back with the queen. So let's see, what did he play here? Oh, he played f6, trying for this trick. And a couple of people pointed out that I was trying to figure this out over the board, and I got it wrong. In fact, it's perfectly safe for me to take that. Well, let's see. I took with the bishop first. He took with the rook. And now it is safe for me to take the rook, because when he comes out with a check, I saw the check and I saw that he was ganging up on my bishop, and I thought he would get some material back as well as play against my king. But I can drop the bishop back, defending against the check, and also my queen is still defended, so there's no tactic here. And let's see, what's the result? The result is that in addition to being 2 pawns up, I'm also up the exchange. So that's a much stronger position, even though my king side is a little bit disordered. I mean, it's pretty safe. This is a solid defender here. I mean, he can try to harass the bishop, but I'll have time to unwind here. So that would be better than what I played, although the way I played it is fine in the sense that it's winning, and it keeps the position pretty simple. I take with the bishop, and now if he grabs, there's no more queen check because I've protected that, and if he takes the bishop, I'll take the rook. So we'll get into that same kind of position where I'm up the exchange as well as 2 pawns, but I'll have the additional advantage that that his queen won't be active. So that'll be good for me. So he did the right thing here. He took, he just retreated the rook rather, and I retreat my bishop. And so yeah, things have settled out after that little skirmish, and I'm just 2 pawns up. So this should be a win from this point. I did miss a quicker win at one point, so let's get back to go forward to the next interesting point. There were no real mistakes in this part of the game. I mean, white just doesn't have much hope here, and I just have to be careful in how I move my pawns forward to make sure they stay mobile. Yeah, here's the point. This is a neat little tactic you should always keep an eye out for. 2 rooks here are separated by pawns, and this b pawn is hanging. So queen takes b2 is a fork hitting the 2 rooks, and this is going to win some material. So yeah, thanks to the viewers that pointed that out. And yeah, they also found the previous tactic that I missed too. So good going, guys. Yeah, so the best, well, I don't know, there's not a lot that the white can do here. There's both rooks are hanging. Bishop to b4 has the virtue of temporarily defending both rooks. Queen defends this one, the bishop defends that one, but that can just be taken. And well, this rook has got a few squares to go to, probably runs down here, but this is it's kind of out of play here. And what am I up? I'm just up a bishop and some pawns, but just a completely winning position because my pieces and pawns sort of dominate the board here. Anyway, I just was paying attention to my center here, and I wasn't paying attention to what white was doing. But you should always have an eye out for those tactics. They can really simplify these games. Anyway, yeah, I was looking for ways to double my rooks and increase the pressure here. Let's see, he went bishop to c3, hitting my queen, and also defending the b2 pawn, so that tactic isn't on anymore. Drop my queen back. He went queen to f1, and pushed on with e3, and he decided to resign at this point. I looked at this, and Chess Engine gives black about a 6-point advantage, which is pretty strong edge here, considering I'm only up 2 pawns. But well, it's just my pieces are dominating the position, and he has no great play here. There is no, however, direct win, so it would still be a long game. You know, I would probably be tempted to play on as white, honestly, because if you trade, there is one drawing idea here, which is you trade off all the major pieces and leave the opposite colored bishops. You know, it sometimes is a draw with opposite colored bishops, even against 2 extra pawns in the endgame. So there is some faint hope there if black blunders. But, well, anyway, he decided I was playing well enough. And decided to resign at this point and not test my skills any further. Yeah, I guess this pawn is hanging. I'm threatening to come in here. He has the move queen to f3 to prevent that, but the bishop has other ways to harass the queen. The bishop can go that way. Yeah, I just have a lot of scope for my pieces here, so it's difficult for white to find a move. And he resigned. Anyway, interesting game. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you again soon.